they're hitting singles, and then there comes a time where if you continue to reach out to those people, like kind of the bigger, larger customers, you're going to get there at the right time, or, you know, their contract may be ending, and then that's when you can start to hit the home runs. I lost my warehouse and I lost my office, so I had to figure things out pretty quick.
My advice always is start local. Like, look at the local flower shops, look at the local credit union, look at the local blood bank, look at the local pharmacy, right? And just build your business there, figure out how to manage that part, and then you can start scaling into some of these larger opportunities.
That was probably my first time where I hit something where, you know, we were talking about things were coming easy right at first.
Yeah.
Got really lucky, and then that was my first time where I was like, man, I'm gonna have to, you know, strap my boots up and figure something out.
Yep. How big was that first account, roughly, revenue-wise?
I want to say annually it was like Mitch Miller, VP of Package Express, and you're watching Last2First podcast.
We've all heard the saying before, trust but verify. But in the last mile, when you're working with agents and master contractors, verification is manual, complex, and very rarely achieved. Enter GigSafe. GigSafe solved the problem that matters to you most. They've built a new network compliance tool that ties in master contractors, agents, and carriers so they can connect, validate, and authenticate their delivery and driver networks. With automated onboarding, live compliance tracking, and insurance verification, all happening in real time. No spreadsheets, no follow-ups, no more hoping that my partners are doing it right. Just one connected platform where visibility and control are at every layer of your operation. Turn your compliance into your competitive advantage. Visit gigsafe.com today. Last2First family, welcome back to our next episode on Last2First podcast. I'm Jason Burns, your host, and this is the podcast where we bring you the latest and greatest innovations, innovators that's moving this last mile, final mile industry from last to first in today's supply chain. Today we got another great guest. This is actually someone who was early in my corner when I was thinking about doing a podcast, who said, you should do it. He also has some experienced podcasts, and we're going to talk about that here in a moment. But I am excited to have another young, established, but I would still say innovative leader in the final mile space with us today. It's Mitch Miller, who is the VP for Package Express here in Houston, Texas. Mitch, welcome to the podcast.
How's it going, man? Good to be on here.
Yeah, man, we here.
Yeah, I know. We talked about this a lot with CJ the DJ.
CJ the DJ.
Yeah, and it's good that you followed through with it. A lot of people talk about it, and well, I guess a lot of people we know in the industry, they kind of went through with it. Yeah. And
I appreciate
did what they want to do, man.
Yeah, so. I appreciate you inspiring me and encouraging me. And you even called a couple of times, like after we had that first conversation, you hit me up a couple months later, like, hey, what's going on? Like, you going to do it or not? What's going on? Like, I'm working on it. But,
yeah, that's what I talk about, because a lot of people talk about what they want to do. And I could tell it's something, just that I think we had like an hour-long conversation by the pool. We were just talking, and, I could tell it was something that you really wanted to do. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm going to just keep checking on him, man, try to put some pressure and make sure that you push through with it.
Yeah,
so.
No, I appreciate that, bro, and appreciate we finally got you on the pod, and it's going to be a good conversation.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So let's jump in. All right, so first, tell us and the audience kind of what you do today, the company you're with, Package Express, kind of where you guys operate, number of drivers. Give us a sense of the business, and we'll jump into the rest of the convo.
Yeah, so I'm the vice president of Package Express. We're I would say regional. I would say Texas is regional. I don't know if you agree. I always say that.
I'm hitting Texas is definitely regional.
Exactly.
It's a big ass state.
Yeah, so we're in the 4 major markets, and then we also cover the Valley, and we have about 175 to 185 drivers on any given day.
Yeah.
We're doing final mile. Again, we always talk about, I've seen your podcast, what does final mile mean to you? We don't really touch home delivery, so we don't cross the threshold, but we pretty much do everything else. Yeah. And so we do a lot of B2B. We still do B2C with our 24, 26-foot straight trucks. Okay. We have Sprinter vans, cargo vans, pickup trucks, sedans, the whole same-day expedited freight.
Yeah. So, then warehousing.
We have warehouses in Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, and then we cover the Austin market, and then the Rio Grande Valley out of San Antonio. So
the drivers are ICs, W-2s? Both?
They're all ICs.
ICs,
yeah,
okay.
They're all ICs.
Got it, IC mix. All right, so we'll come back to Package Express, but I want to start with just kind of how you got into like this industry. I heard a little bit about the story. I know a little bit, but how'd you even get into transportation?
Okay, yeah, that's funny, because I never thought I'd be in transportation.
None of us ever did, right?
In the cards, when I was looking in the future. But My whole life I thought I was going to play basketball. Looking back on it, it's probably silly to think that I'd make it anywhere. But
what'd you play? What position?
I played point guard, actually. Point guard.
All right. That makes sense.
I was probably a little skinnier back in high school back then. But
were you like the tall kid? You hit the early growth stage. So
I did. I played football too. Wasn't it? But
what'd you play? Ball.
And football. I played quarterback. But we had a guy named Russell Shepard come in, and
Russ.
he's
a bad boy.
He was amazing to watch.
You know what? I have an in. I'm trying to get him on the podcast. He has a I think a trash collection business, something like that now.
Yeah, I'll hit him up for you.
Yeah, all right, no, let's do that. Let's do that.
Yeah,
Rob. Not Rob. No, Russ.
Russ. Yeah.
Russ. All right.
Yeah, I'll hit him up for you.
All right, let's do that.
But yeah, so my whole plan was to go. I got a Division II offer. I was going to go to Sterling, Kansas. And then last second, I had some family stuff come up, and I was like, I'm going to just go home, I stayed home. I ended up going to Tomball Junior College because I didn't want to waste a semester. It was too late to go to, I was like, I'm going to go to U of H. Yeah. Came back, went to Tomball. For those who don't know, Tomball is like 45 minutes. When I was younger, that's like the country. So I was driving out to the country out of Houston. And then during that first semester there, a lot of my friends were talking to me and trying to get me to go to Texas State. And so ended up going to Texas State. It was fun. And I know you talked about you used to party in Houston.
Oh, yeah.
Texas State was also a fun place to party.
Texas State is where?
San Marcos. So in between Austin and San Antonio. Yeah. Pretty good spot. Went there, and I was lucky enough to meet one of my business management professors. And I actually did a project, and, we were supposed to choose a company. A lot of the people in my class, they had different companies they wanted to do, different people than you. And I was like, I want to do it on my professor because he had a unique.
In the last mile world, we value technology that looks good but doesn't get the job done. That's why different is different. Built by courier pros with over 35 years of real-world operational experience. Sorting freight, dispatching drivers, missed scans. They built the technology platform that they always needed. You get lightning-fast dispatching and routing, a driver app that eliminates confusion and adds visibility. Back office automation and tools from on-demand to air freight, all in one place. Need proof? Their courier business grew 300% in just 3 weeks without any new hires and managing 150 drivers. Ready for tech that gets it? Visit deliverdifferent.com and book your demo today.
To become a professor. He actually went to college, and then he was a pitcher, so he got signed, made some good money. Didn't really ever make it to the big leagues, but still, signed that contract. Yeah. And then he opened up a courier company, and that courier company was in San Marcos. And so I was like, man, let me do the project on that because it was interesting to me, And so I got to learn the ins and outs. I think he had like 15 drivers, and that's what he was doing. And so I was like, man, this would be awesome if I could do the same thing in Houston. Right. Obviously, I didn't know how competitive it was going to be. But came home after Texas State, and my dad had a mailing and printing company. And they had about 7 to 8 drivers, I think, in cargo vans. My dad was paying for the insurance, gas. They still were getting accidents.
Your employee drivers?
Yeah, employee drivers, wear and tear on the vehicle. Yep. And so I kind of took the project that I worked to, which was like a business plan, took it to my dad, and I was like, look, let's sell your vehicles. We'll sell them to the drivers. We'll turn them into ICs. And, I can get a little money until I figure out what I really want to do. And then I can also like just kind of, sell, do something else and try to figure out what I want to do next. And so did that. That took a little while. And again, you get entry, the low barrier of entry into the courier business. So I did that. And then, within 6 months, it was crazy. I got a pretty large customer, and it was a transmission company. So
first 6 months.
Yeah.
All right, wait, before you go there. So what was the name of that business?
Prime Delivery.
Prime Delivery. So you give me credit for like executing on this podcast, but like how many people, actually do a college paper? There was no AI back then, so you really had to do it, right? You had to do it, but you actually took it from, a concept, a research paper, and actually put into action. Like that was straight out of school.
Straight out of school. I mean, funny enough, you say that, but I was probably naive back then. I was coming out of college, thought I was the man, and I was like, this is so easy. If I knew everything I knew now, I may not have made that decision. So it's probably good that I didn't know everything that was going to come with it.
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, exactly.
As they say.
So it worked out. So
all right, so you start Prime Delivery.
Yes.
off the heels of your dad's printing business.
Correct.
So you kind of taking some of the drivers and the extra time or capacity had and trying to find some customers and then you kind of getting filled with some extra work, helping your dad's business out, put the money in your pocket. But then you land your first big account.
Yeah.
All right, when you tell the story, tell how you landed it, because a lot of people in this space ask, like, I want to get my first big account, but they have no idea how to do it. So how did that happen for you?
I mean, it was pretty simple. I wish I had like a great story, but, you know, I was just hungry and I saw kind of what we were doing with just my dad being my first customer. You know, I had 7 to 8 drivers going in and out. And so I just started knocking on doors. Like I printed out flyers, went on Google, looked in. I started in like a 3-mile radius because we were on the east side of Houston. And so, you know, it's very industrial. So I was like, you know, let me start in a 3-mile radius. I was just pulling up companies like distribution companies or companies that may need delivery.
Right.
And then I would just go knock on doors, drop off business cards, and ended up going, it was literally a mile away. Walked in, I kind of chopped it up with the team in the back, met the right person who made an introduction to the branch manager.
Yeah.
And
what kind of business was this?
It was transmission. So they would sell transmission parts to like the body shops or the transmission shops around Houston.
Got it.
And so I found out that they had 10 routes that would go out every day, every morning, and then they had 10 routes every afternoon. And so in my head, I was like, man, this is a great spot for me. I already have, 7, 8 drivers. I'm going to basically, more than double my driver count. That's going to make me more appealing to anybody else I'm going after. And so I really hit it hard. Again, like most people, that get a big piece of business, right time, right place.
Yeah.
Went in at the right time. He was having some issues with his current service provider. And so, and again, I hit it off with him. He was a good guy. And, it was weird. It was like
how big was that first account, roughly, revenue wise?
I want to say annually it was like 450,000. Yeah.
So all right. So you're probably what, 22, 23?
Yeah, I was 22 at the time.
22. You thought you was the man in college. We had to be feeling really.
Yeah, that's why I said I think I was like, man, I'm just hitting home runs. Like, it feels great.
Like this shit is easy, right?
And other people were like, this is not how it works, And I felt that later on, but this is me coming out of college, don't know anything, so.
Yeah. All right, cool. So you launching, you got the business going. What year was this? Just paint the picture for me. This was...
It must have been 2012, 2013.
12, 13. Okay. All right, and then what kind of happens next? How does the business... I know ultimately you had an exit, but kind of just a little bit of how you grew and then kind of what led to the
yeah,
the
of course.
exit.
So, that goes on for a while. And then, so my dad, so, I was just officing out of my dad's office. So I was paying him rent. I had like a little office where he used to put his dispatchers. I actually hired his dispatcher onto my team.
Smart.
Hired my now wife, but she had went to school for accounting, so I hired her as my accountant.
Was it really to be an accountant, or were you already trying to like?
It was a little, I knew she was going to be my wife one day, so I kind of saw the future. But
you had that smooth voice back there. Yeah,
I don't know, man.
I want your dispatcher, baby.
Something like that, man. But that's a funny story too. We should get that one time.
All right, but we're here. Tell a story. What happened?
But yeah, no, I'm actually like a really shy guy. So she came up to me.
Don't believe that.
Yeah, she came up to me in Tomball when we went to Tomball. She came up to me, took my headphones out of my ear, and started talking to me. I probably still would be single to this
What's
day.
your wife's name?
Selena.
Selena. Selena. Whenever I meet you, we're gonna check the story because something don't smell right about this story. But all right, so you hired Selena. You got your dad's dispatcher,
and then my dad's company, because it was mailing and printing. Mailing and printing was going a different way, and going away, and so. I think they shut down the downtown post office, and my dad actually lost his business. Because what he would do is he'd bring it in, kind of like logistics. He'd bring it in, consolidate it, sort it by zip code, and then give it back to the post office, and the post office would cut him a check later on. Well, when they shut down the downtown post office, what happened is that check that would come in monthly that he'd use to pay for all his expenses, right? It got delayed like 6-7 months. And so
cash flow,
that cash flow got burnt pretty quick. And it was nothing to his fault. It's just, it was kind of going away, but he didn't expect it. They didn't give him a heads up. And so my dad lost his business, sadly. And so that was tough. Yeah. But also, on the prime delivery side, I lost my warehouse and I lost my office, so I had to figure things out pretty quick. And that was probably my first time where I hit something where, we were talking about things were coming easy right at first.
Yeah.
Got really lucky, and then that was my first time where I was like, man, I'm gonna have to, strap my boots up and figure something out.
Yep.
So got my
first
own
real taste of entrepreneurship. Like I gotta solve a problem.
And not to mention, I went from 8 drivers to I added 10 to 12 drivers, so I was at 20 drivers. I lost those 8 drivers because those were routes that I was running for my dad, so I lost one of my bigger customers as well. And so I had to adjust, got a warehouse, and new office space, and then we just kept growing. And then that was, for me, anytime something like that happens, and I know because you played sports, is when you got that ingrained in you, when the going gets tough, you kind of just all right, we got to work harder.
You're gonna go home. You're gonna take the ball and go home. You're gonna figure it out.
Yeah. So.
But wait, all right. So who was mentoring you at that time? You're young, you're 22, 23, and success is happening. But then you hit these hurdles, your first couple of hurdles in business. Like, where do you go? Who gives you guidance? You got to figure out how to solve a warehouse, an office space issue. Like, what were you using to figure this stuff out? Or who? I
mean, it's odd. I had a lot of different people that I was reaching out to, and not even people in the industry. I knew people that I had met throughout my life that, I was lucky enough that maybe mentored me in basketball and mentored me doing, different avenues of my life. And so I was just reaching out to anybody I can. I mean, I'm not scared. We mentioned at the beginning that I called you just to see if you were going to follow through on the podcast. And, I'm not scared to pick up the phone and talk to people. And I enjoy it. Like, I enjoy talking to people and just seeing what they're doing, because you can pick up bits and pieces. You learn a lot. And, I'm a sponge, especially at that age. Like, I was just trying to learn as much as possible.
I see he was lying about being shy. I told y'all that.
But, so, I was reaching out to anybody I could, honestly. And I don't think there's one person that really sticks out. But it was, not to say that I didn't appreciate it, but I mean, it's everybody. I have a good amount of people that I trust and I can call. I mean, a lot of people that have been on your podcast, I've called throughout my career. So it was awesome. I say even my dad, even though he had just lost the business, he was somebody that was really important to me about, failure is going to happen and you're going to hit these road bumps, but it's how you get through it. And
did your dad ever get involved in the business? Like once the printing company shut down?
He didn't, because, he had done printing and mailing for so long that he wanted to stay in that. And, obviously we had just lost a big account being him. And so there wasn't the funds there at the time, because I was trying to do everything I could to not take out a line of credit or do anything like that.
I was going to ask you, financing the stuff. It's all cash flows from the business?
I took out a small loan right at the beginning and paid it back within 2 years.
Wow. Damn. How much you take out?
I took out, at the time, I think it was like $20,000 to $25,000. That's it.
Yeah. All right, so what happened? So you eventually figure out the office space issue. I'm assuming you kept the transmission client. What happens? Like, give me fast track a little bit ahead to your point where you went to exit from Prime.
So I continued to build the business, and then I think, I had it for 5 years. So around year 4, that's where, another company was coming in and they had some new ideas, and they reached out to me, invited me to kind of a luncheon with some other business owners. And so I went to that just to see what it was about. Again, like, I was just a sponge. I was trying to be a part of anything that I could.
All right.
And so I went to the lunch, and at the time, they had an offer on the table, and, for me, it just didn't work out. But it was interesting, because then that opened up my eyes to say, well, maybe I can, maybe my business is worth something. Maybe somebody would want to acquire me. So I kept that in the back of my head, and but just kept working. And because it's tough. Texas is a very tough market. It's competitive. There's a million mom and pop shops, and that's what I was. I was a mom and pop shop. I was only servicing Houston. I only did same day delivery, routed work. I didn't do final mile at the time. I had a small warehouse, but that was only to supplement my the routed work that I was doing.
Kind of cross stock a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit of cross stock. And so, like we discussed, it's how do I grow? And so I was capped out again. Like I was really debating: do I go get a loan? Do I go get a line of credit? And if I did, what would I do?
Yeah.
And so it was kind of a blessing in disguise. So year 5, that's when I got invited back to the same group that had talked to me year 4, and I guess the approach I was way more comfortable with.
Yeah.
And so they laid something out for me. That company decided to acquire my company and another company in the Houston market that was a lot larger than I was. And that company had somebody that kind of wanted to exit. And so they needed somebody to run the Houston hub. And so I signed a 2-year employment agreement and joined the company. And it helped me pay off some school debt. At the time, Selena, we were going to get married. We wanted to get a house. Yep. And then we wanted to start a family. And so, I took that as like, get some money in my pocket.
Put a little cash in the bank, do some things with it.
Be debt free and then, get a house. That was always my dream. So, at that age, I was like, man, I'm ahead of the game. And so join the next venture.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So just to kind of recap, so you hit kind of an inflection point and you had the opportunity to exit. So you sold the business and then joined the larger kind of entity they put together.
I want to thank you for taking this ride on the Last2First journey with us. In 6 months, we've achieved over 200,000 views across all our platforms. We're humbled and thankful for your support. I do have one small favor to ask. Take 5 seconds, hit the like button or subscribe. Just like your on-time performance metric, this one matters to us the most. It helps us attract better guests and bring you deeper content to help propel you on your Last2First journey. And if your brand aligns with our mission, reach out to us. We'd love to find ways to partner and work together. Now back to Last2First.
One thing I want to dig into is a couple of things. One, how many drivers were you at the point you sold the business? Like what size was Prime at that point?
We were probably like 20 to 25 drivers.
Okay, so decent sized company. So
it was decent, yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming north of $1 million revenue at the time?
Right around there,
Okay. And this is I'm asking this question because a lot of people get into the industry, probably not like you, people get in from leaving, a job and try to come in and maybe start as a gig driver, IC, and then work their way up to being a master contractor. And there are these inflection points in the industry. It's like $1 million is like a point where you're like, okay, like how am I going to get to 5 or 10 million? And you have to, either raise more money or you got to do something different, right? So you took the path of exiting. One of the things I talk about to feed people offline about is when you exit, many times like the multiples in this space, the way they trade companies in this space is a multiple of your EBITDA, your earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization. And most times, not all the time, those exits, you can't retire off those exits. I'm a product of it, right? I exited my business. I went to work for the similar saying, for the company that bought our company. I'm still working, right? Because I got to work. I got kids to feed. In your case, and I think it's for the audience, when you think about exiting a business in the multiple, you mentioned one of your motivations was kind of take some cash off to do some things personally. Give some advice on people when they think about exiting. What should you be thinking about in terms of the longevity of your tenure in your career, right? Because I think some people are confused thinking that I got $1 million company, I'm a 10x $1 million company and get $10 million. But the reality is that's not how it happens in our particular industry. They're not trading top line multiples. It's based off the EBITDA.
Yeah, no, of course. And, now looking back, I have some experience, because the company that I went to, we actually acquired another company in San Antonio, Austin, and then also in Dallas. And so I got to be a part of that. I think we actually talked to you about it too. Yeah. And so I got to gain more experience and knowledge on that process. But at the time when I sold my company, again, I was still young, still green.
Young, dumb, and free. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. And so I probably could have got a little more out of it. But at the same time, like you said, it's not what people think. You're not going to get rich. It's not something like that, especially at the size of business that I had. That's just not realistic. And so for me, at least, it was enough to like catapult me to the next level. And when you ask why I chose to exit the way I decided to exit was I just saw a cap on where I was unless I did want to take out a line of credit, unless I did want to get investment money or something like that. And I don't think I was ready for that at the age. And, I don't want to say I'm not confident in myself, but, I just have to be realistic too, because it's not just me at the time. Again, like I told you, I was getting married. I wanted to start a family, and I was looking to the future. And and you may not be able to retire with the money, but you can set yourself up for the long term and, put yourself in a really good spot.
Got it.
And kind of, I always talk about starting the race, like where do you start the race depending on, where you're at coming out of college, right? Like you may start the race somewhere, but there's going to be times where you can jump forward and, take a shortcut here and there to get further along in the race.
Yep.
And so that was my time to do that.
Yeah.
So,
Key is to keep running.
Exactly.
Keep running. All right, so you get into your new opportunity. What was your role there? You mentioned you're general manager of kind of the Houston market. How different was that experience from what you were doing before?
It was way different. I had 2 dispatchers at the time, and then I had my wife, and then we had a salesperson. And so that's kind of how we ran. I was able to bring the drivers on, but obviously going from, I think we had 50 plus drivers in the Houston. So I was managing a larger driver crew.
Yep.
And then we had a full team. So it was a bunch of people. And again, at the time I think I was probably like 26, 27. Mm-hmm. I'm coming in and I'm managing people that are in their 40s, 50s, 60s. And I'm having to gain that respect. And it's a lot different versus people that I grew up with and people that I've known my whole life versus people that I'm just meeting. And they look at me as a little kid and they're like, who is this guy? Why is he managing us?
How'd you navigate that? I had a similar experience, although it was family business, but I was about the same age coming in a leadership position or earning my leadership stripes. And
yours is probably worse too because they're like, "Oh, why is he here? He's only here because
I'm like my mom and dad, and they've been seeing me since I was a little kid, running around the office. So it's kind of like even like she's not gonna come in here and tell me what to do, right? But how did you navigate that, and when you were facing with those kind of challenges?
Honestly, again, nothing special. I just talked to everybody, got to know everybody. I went and sat with every single person, took notes with every single person, just to see what they did, see what their strengths were. See what their weaknesses were, and just got to know them personally. I mean, I'm still close with a lot of those same people. They may, I may not talk to them every day, but, I'm still close with a lot of them, check on them, check on their kids, check on their family. You know it just as well as I do. This industry is all about relationships. And 100%. So, you'll be talking to a CSR and then, a year later, those are directors in the company. And so I just talked to everybody, man, just connected on a personal level.
Got it. So you find yourself in this new role, and you're kind of operationally focused, but at some point you flip into doing some sales, and I want to really hone in on your experience leading sales teams, because I know you've had several experiences with that, tying that into also new verticals that you are either testing out, trying to get into that you may have had no experience with before. So kind of a dual part question, like one, how was that experience converting into the sales role, and then leading teams, and how do you guide them on, hey, here's the industry, here's what customer segments we should look at, just kind of that whole switch. I think there's such a there's a really solid connection between ops and sales. I'm saying it nowhere. I think for salespeople who have ops experience, they are head and shoulders above a salesperson that just comes out, right? Because they don't have the same appreciation for like how it actually works, right?
Story time with drop-off, the lab test that just couldn't wait. A hospital system needed a delivery fast. The patient was prepped, the doctors were waiting, and time was just not on their side. Enter drop-off. Drop-off showed up with the certified driver, temperature-controlled equipment, and live updates along the way. That wasn't just moving a package, it was saving a life. And that's the type of reliability that Drop-Off brings in 35 plus markets across the US. Powered by smart technology, but always with people and drivers who care. Turn this story into your reality. Visit dropoff.com today.
So I was curious how you leverage those things into your experience as a sales leader.
Yeah, so it's weird because I know you laughed earlier, but like people joke with me and call me a robot because I'm just like not emotional and kind of monotone. I got to remind myself like, hey, smile, talk with energy. And, so I never thought I'd be selling anything, but it's like you said, I was really big into operations. I knew the operations. I'd come in the morning, figure everything out, and then, stay. I did warehousing. I drove. I did a bunch of different things just so I could know exactly what we're doing. And then what you take from that is when you're talking to somebody and they're asking you to service whatever they want you to service, like just me knowing exactly how it's going to work and being able to talk about that in the moment, like that excites me. And I think that comes across well with, different shippers that once they trust you, you kind of get trust. And maybe I'm not, selling them on a high level, but at least they trust me and they know that I know what I'm talking about.
Right.
And so I was able to, when I was the Houston general manager, obviously I was managing the Houston P&L. Revenue kind of runs everything. So I was trying to bring on more revenue. And with a bigger team and a bigger driver, I guess with a bigger count of drivers, I was able to go after some of the businesses that I wasn't able to go after as Prime Delivery, because I was small as Prime Delivery.
Yeah.
And then when I joined a bigger company, I was like, okay, now I have the.
I got some. I
got something
I can work with now.
Yeah, now I can do it. So
it's like being that point guard, and all of a sudden you got a big center.
Yeah, now I'm throwing alley-oops instead of trying to like hand it to him.
Yeah.
So I felt better. Like it's just like I felt like I joined a stronger team, and so I was able to go. And that looked good to my higher ups that I was bringing on new business, but it's just a lot of the same like I said, making the contacts and just keeping up with people, and going back and circling back to these people that, hey, maybe we couldn't service you back then, but I'm with a new company and we can service you now.
Right.
So I was able to bring on some business, and maybe that tricked some of the higher ups to thinking that I was a great salesperson, and so. Then that's what we're doing. We're in growth mode, and so we hired a bunch of salespeople in the Houston market.
Okay.
I think I was managing like 5 to 7 at any given time.
Okay.
And these were like new account executives, like fresh out of high school. This is their first job.
Oh wow.
And so
I'm green.
Yeah, and I'm still green on the sales side, and I'd never ran a team before, but they thought I was doing well compared to some of the other markets, I guess. And so I was the first one to get like 5 or 6 people under me.
Okay.
Started managing that along with still managing the operations. But it actually made it easy. It's like you said, like the people coming in, actually, they knew nothing about logistics. But what they did know is how they were, again, like ignorance is bliss, right? They'd walk in anywhere, and all I had to do was come play cleanup. And so they'd get the meetings, they'd go in there, they'd start the conversation, then I'd come in. And I would talk operation, I would talk shop, and then that's kind of was my
coming close.
So, and it was good because I already, they'd come back, they'd lay it all out for me, and I'm like, okay, let's go talk. This is our plan of action. I put a plan together with the salesperson, and lucky enough, again, you're only as good as the people around you.
Right.
We had some really good salespeople come out of college and just fall into our lap, and it worked out really well.
Now, did you direct this is again for folks in the audience who are maybe just first time trying to hire a salesperson or trying to expand beyond those first few customers? Like, how did you teach, train, and identify like new customer segments? Or what verticals did you guys sell into? Which ones did you find you had success in?
So,
or was it just like a shotgun approach? Like we can just shoot and see what starts to stick?
Yeah, so our president at the time, he wanted more of like a shotgun approach. And then we also had a director of marketing who played a big role in that. And she was actually one of my closer friends. So, we worked side by side. And I think, again, that was a benefit to me, just working closely with the director of marketing. And so we just tried a bunch of things.
Yeah.
And we were trying to utilize technology at the time. So we were just trying a lot with technology. We would kind of rotate verticals. Obviously, healthcare, medical.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted that, and especially same day delivery. But with those, it's going to take you 2 to 4 years to get something like that. You got to, get on a list. You got to wait for it to come back around, that RFP to come back around.
Yeah.
And so we couldn't wait because they were all new AEs. We were trying to move quick, and so we still had those that we were going after, but we were just going after anything and everything.
So some lower hanging fruit, maybe.
Correct, and especially with the new AEs, straight out of college. So.
Yeah. Go a little deeper there, because I know I was mentoring someone recently, and they come in and they like the typical path for people getting this business is you start off as a driver, and you start getting some contract. You start figuring out who the customers are, and then you're like, okay, I want to branch out on my own, and I want to go after this big hospital system or this big shipper. And I was advising this guy's like, yeah, I get it, but to your point, you gotta I want everybody to be successful overnight if you can do it. But the reality is you got to kind of earn those stripes. So my advice always is start local. Like look at the local flower shops, look at the local credit union, look at the local blood bank, look at the local pharmacy, right? And just build your business there. Figure out how to manage that part, and then you can start scaling into some of these larger opportunities. Was that kind of the approach you guys were?
That was because sales. You're going to look at your numbers at the end of every month, right? And so. Now looking back on it, the salespeople that were successful, what they did is they got out that low hanging fruit. You know, they were going after maybe not national companies, but, you know, regional companies or companies that were just specific to Houston. And they'd get that business, and maybe they weren't the home runs they were looking for, but they were hitting a bunch of singles.
Yeah.
Whereas like some of the A's came in and they're like, I'm going straight after the big, you know, the big people, and they're going after the big customers. And you know it, those sales cycles tend to be, you know, 6 months to 2 years. Whereas like you can sign somebody up that's a local customer, and they may have, you know, 1 or 2 deliveries a day, but if you sign up a bunch of those, you know, that those numbers start to look really good.
Yeah.
And those people will turn it on like that. That sales cycle might be less than a month.
Yep.
And so that's why I think we're kind of just, you know, trying to go after anything we could.
Got it.
But also those same people, they're hitting singles, and then there comes a time where if you continue to reach out to those people, like kind of the bigger, larger customers, you're going to get there at the right time, or, you know, their contract may be ending, and then that's when you can start to hit the home runs.
Yeah.
But
what's the biggest account you've ever sold?
That's a good question. I wish I knew. It's tough because I kind of separate them, like going direct or kind of through a 3PL. And, you know, I would say some of the 3PLs were pretty large accounts, and maybe that one specific account, like maybe I win just one piece of business. It may not seem like a lot, but then it's continuous business going forward. And as long as you do a good job for them. So I would say biggest that way. I would say one of the hospitals maybe on the on-demand side. I developed a pretty good relationship with one of the big hospitals in the Houston market. And again, this is one that I worked on when I was at Prime, and we weren't big enough to do it yet. But I just continued to reach out to them, build that relationship. And then one of the people that I was talking to and that I built a really good relationship moved into a position of power and was able to make a decision. And then that was, I actually hit that one. It was probably led everyone to believe that I was good at sales, but I hit that one pretty quick. And that ended up being like our second largest customer in Houston.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think you are great at sales, because when you're not selling and you're building relationships and you're truly looking at the value you can bring to someone, in your case, these things are relationships that happen over many years. Like, you're not selling, you're actually providing value. And I think that's a big thing people have to understand. Like, yeah, you can go sell a widget or whatever it is on a corner, but the long-term success, the people I've seen in this space have had long-term success, they're doing exactly what you've done. They're just able to do it, they just get bigger and bigger. The relationships and opportunities, they continue to scale. And so if I was the person, I'd have put you in the sales role too. Like, let's go get them. So let's talk about like common pain points in the industry. Like, so, one of the things that you and I have unique experience on, we're in the same age group. I'm 41, you're what, 30? 35, right? So we're kind of like tweeners almost. Like, we've been in this industry for, I don't know, 10, 15 plus years. So we've got a lot of good experience, institutional knowledge. There's a gap I think I see right now in the space, right? Like a knowledge gap, where you have this kind of older population who's someone aging out, who's leaving with a lot of institutional knowledge that they've learned from just literally doing with their fingers, right with hands and ground up. And you have kind of us as tweeners in the middle, and you have like this new generation. I don't know what letter they refer to them as nowadays. I don't know what gen it is. Yeah, I don't know. So I'm not even gonna try to say it if somebody blast me on the podcast. But you got these younger kids, but younger folks who coming in, super smart, super talented. They don't necessarily want to learn the same way, certainly not through years and years of experience. They want it, they want it right now, and they learn differently. They just don't navigate things. You got all the other tools available to them now that obviously we are leveraging too. But do you see this? Do you see the same thing I've noticed, like this knowledge gap, and then if so, like, what do you do to try to bridge those two together?
That's a good question, and I've thought about this a lot, because it's odd that I feel like, you see the memes online and everything, but like some of my best friends in the industry are a lot older than me.
Yeah.
I'm good friends with like people that are 60 plus. And I never thought that would be the case. But also, when we're bringing in the salespeople, I may have been like 7 years older, but I got along with them really well too. So it's like you said, like I was always in the middle. I think it's just like being a parent. You're a parent to twins. I have 3 children, and they're all different, and so it's just like finding a common ground and finding what motivates people. and we're all trying to solve the same issue, right? And you've also played sports, so it's like, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, and how can I compensate for that? And I've always felt like, I was more of a glue guy.
Yeah.
And so like, like a lot of these the older generation, they've been in the industry for so long and they have so much knowledge, and, they may not go about it the same way that I would. And there's a lot of efficiencies that I think they miss out on. But I also understand that I can't expect everybody to, learn the new technology. They didn't grow up typing. They didn't grow up taking time beat classes. Yeah. They may still peck with one finger. So
I got to tell you a funny story. So, I'm driving here to Houston this morning on the phone with my dad. If y'all seen the episode of my dad, you've just got a taste of who he is. And he's telling me he has to give a speech to some high school students this week. And he's like, I'm trying to take notes and write down my talking points. And so I say, hold on 1 second. I literally put him on hold, go to my AI, ChatGPT, and I put in like, hey, my dad's giving a speech to the school, put up some talking points for him to give. Literally 30 seconds later, I send him this long text message and I click back over on the phone. He's like, how the hell did you do this? I'm like, AI, I've been telling you about this. It's just too like all this, and he did all this that fast. I'm like, yes, but they're just not oriented to think that way, to actually, it's almost like I don't say it's a mistrust of it. It's just they've done it their way for so long.
They didn't grow up with it.
They didn't grow up with it. It's not native to them.
It's weird too, because if you think about it, I mean, Uber's obviously big in our industry too. Like, they were the generation that, I remember like I was like telling my dad and my mom, like when Uber came out, like, I'm just gonna Uber, or I'm gonna call you Uber, and they're just like, I'm not getting in that.
I'm not getting there.
Like, you getting with a taxi? What's the difference? Yeah. But again, it's that comfort level. Like, we grew up with it. Like, we understand that. Yeah. And it's weird. You were talking about like the younger generation. Sometimes it's weird too, because I feel like, our age group was lucky enough to where we had like typing classes. We still learned how to code. Like, we still learned everything, but we also learned it, the old way too. Whereas like the new generation, they only know how to do things a very specific way. And so it's weird sometimes, like, I'll work with some people straight out of college and, highly intelligent, like very smart people, and they don't know how to do basic things on the laptop. And it's like, because they've done everything on their phone, or they've done it a different way. And so, like, lucky enough, like, we know how to use our cell phone. We also know how to use a laptop. We know how to use Excel. Yep. And so we kind of get the best of both worlds. Yeah. And so it's like, how do you find that gap? Like, how do you fill in that gap?
Yes. I think it's what you're saying to me is you got to kind of, that's why I love sports so much, especially for kids. And we're both athletes, but it teaches you, like, every player is different. When you coach teams, I coach my kids' team, like, every individual is different. And the best coaches I've ever played for developed a relationship with each individual person that collectively together, that's the team, right? And so just what you said, multiple times on this podcast already, like how you sat down with individuals and kind of done it that way. I think it may take a little longer that way, but it is the best way to do it, because I think everybody wants to feel connected to something, right? And whatever you're doing. And so there's got to be a connected, the glue, as you mentioned, right? So that's a shout out to you for being that glue and how you help navigate that. Yeah. All right. Good. All right. So you've had these incredible experiences, sold your business, worked for a new entity. You did it for like 5-6 years or so? You were there? I was
there for 8.5 years.
8.5. Okay. So yeah, you were vested.
Yes.
You were in. You're now with Package Express now, but I want to dig into like the transition. So similar to myself, I've transitioned a couple of times since we sold our business, and those are tricky times because you like I said, you're certainly established, you got experience, you know how to bring value to organizations, and so but you're not at a point where you probably want to find things that fit well for you. So maybe talk about what that next transition looked like for you and kind of what led you to get to where you are today with Package Express.
Of course. So I started as the Houston general manager. I was able to make my way up. I became the director of sales. Again, never thought I'd be in sales, and then continued on. And I think my last 2 years that I was there, I was the VP of sales.
Okay.
So I started sitting in larger meetings, pushing towards the direction where the company was going. And I just started to look at, what the next 5 years look like. Again, I had more kids.
How many kids you got, Mitch?
Three. I had twins. You know
we
both
how
got,
yeah.
It
All
goes
right, we got to talk
fast.
about the boy. Yeah, we both got twins. All right,
I went from 1 to 3. So I started to really plan out my future and where I wanted it to be. And again, I loved sales. It was awesome and it was a good experience, but I knew I wanted to be more operational. That's where I really wanted kind of spend my life. That's what I love. I
That's
just
your
love
core.
being a part of it. And
Yeah.
so I didn't see a path towards getting back more operational. Again, I had to say, but I didn't get to pull the levers. And so I started to look, the industry, like people are always looking. People want to hire
Yep.
good people, whether I'm a good person or not, but they're always looking. So I was getting headhunted. And then I had a buddy that worked at another company that was really pushing, because I would be working, side by side. He'd be on the sales side. I'd be on the operation side.
Okay.
And I went over there, went through like 5 interviews, and left
5
with-
interviews?
Yeah, it's 5 interviews. And I got offered the job. And but during that interview process, I just really started to think, and had good conversations with my wife. Again, she's a great partner, and it's just like, this is a great opportunity financially, but it's like, will I be happy every day? Will this job be sustainable for the future? And so I started to really look at that, and that first kind of path towards interviewing really led me like, man, I need to go to a place where I'm really comfortable. I know I can do a great job, and I have all the tools to be successful. And so I started to get a little picky, and I don't know if I was ever in that position to be that way, but I was just like, look, I only do this one time.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I live my life and I'm happy. And so I turned down that job. I actually did 2 more interviews for 2 more companies, because I was working with a few people that kept telling me that I was a good fit, and that I just never felt comfortable. And then I met.
If you mind, go deep. Like, what was it about? 'Cause I think it's helpful for people that may be in a similar position when they're trying to align their talent, skill set, obviously compensation with your core values, right? Happiness, whatever things mean to you. What was it about that process that maybe just didn't align?
It was a little bit different for each opportunity. I would say that, at Hotshot, like I said, we were talking about being the glue. Like, I really cared about the people at Hotshot. Like, I cared about all the people that I worked with. And, I really enjoyed the camaraderie that it brought. But I was also, like, for myself, I was sad. I was like, man, I feel like I'm letting these people down if I leave. But then I was like, man, I want that same thing the next place I go. Like, I want to be able to feel comfortable and, like, trust my team.
Right.
Because that, like you said, is building relationships. I want to be able to trust the people that are going to do what we need to do to service these customers. And so I just didn't feel comfortable there. And then also at the same time, you kind of get deeper into it, and you start to ask questions during the interview process. And then you're able to see, like, man, this guy's only been here for 3 months. The person before him has only been here for 6 months. And so there's a lot of turnover at a lot of these places. And I'm like, man, I'm making a big switch. I've been here for, 8 years.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I go somewhere where I can stay there and, it's sustainable. I could be there for a long time.
Yeah. Awesome.
Not just like a 3-month switch.
Got it. Yeah. No, that's huge. I think that you have to do that. And I think it's sometimes hard because like I said, you're trying to find the best align between what you want and what the company brings to the table. But credit to you for actually holding true to your guns. So you ultimately get to where you are today.
Yeah, Package Express.
Yep.
So the ECA conference, we were just there.
Yeah.
I was able to meet some good people. You always meet good people at the ECA conference.
Definitely.
And so I met a new owner, recently new owner. I think Scott had purchased the Package Express 3 years prior from when I met him.
Okay.
And so I kind of kept a relationship with him. He was a competitor at the time, but just keeping a relationship with somebody. He was just a good guy. Just seemed like a good guy.
Yeah.
And he is a good guy. The more I got to know him, I was like, man, I really trust this guy, and we aligned well. Like, his values are the same. He loves his family and just wants to work really hard and be successful. And there was an opportunity for me to go over or come over now to Package Express. And so I made the switch, and I've been there about 1.5 years now, and it's been awesome. And so I'm in charge of still sales. I still manage our sales team, but I'm also able to pull the levers I need to do operationally. And so I also saw it as, like, Package Express was mainly same-day delivery. They had warehousing. They had a lot. But I was like, man, I see these warehouses. And, I've done final mile the last 8 years. And so I was like, I know that we could utilize these warehouses, utilize the trucks that we're already using.
Right.
And, I saw some quick growth that could happen.
Got it. And you guys cover Texas?
We do.
Okay.
So we're in Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, and then again, we cover, like, all the down south Texas
Got it.
cities.
Do you plan to expand beyond Texas? Is that part of the future growth?
I would say that it's not out of the picture. Right now, we're just trying to secure Texas.
Filling that market.
Yeah.
Got
You know, Texas is competitive. I said it already, but Texas is very competitive. And so
it is. But you can also you can go really deep in Texas too. There's a lot of different little verticals, and so it's a big place, a lot of competitors, but there's a lot of opportunities to capitalize on.
Exactly. We do about 900 to 1,000 deliveries a day right now, so it's a good amount of deliveries throughout Texas. And again, like, we're focused. We do a lot of healthcare. We do a lot of air freight.
Okay.
But we've really been pushing final mile like this last year.
Yeah.
And final mile is always a good place to be.
Yep.
We don't do home delivery, so we don't cross the threshold right now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not out of the picture.
Got it. So we're getting towards the end of our time here, but I want to close out with a couple of things. So on this podcast, we talk about Last2First, and obviously there's a technical side for the industry, but there's also this personal piece to it. We've talked a lot about your journey today, and particularly as a family man, right? So we kind of hinted at it. We both have boy-girl twins, right? That's a hell of an experience, right?
It's fun.
And you have an older son.
Yes.
Work-life balance. People talk about it. It's one of these things is like a very abstract thing to me. Like it could be day by day, week by week, year by year. Like, how have you and Selena, your wife, navigated? You're a younger guy, family's important, you have young kids, so you want to be there. But this is a very demanding 24/7 business, like 365, no days off. I'm sure your phone is going to always ring. So, like, what do you do to try to find that balance and to be in both places at the same time, or how do you navigate that?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie and say it's easy, but it takes a village. That it's the same, but it's true.
Yeah.
I talk to my mom every single day. She helps out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I have aunts that live within like 5 minutes of me. My grandma, still talk to her all the time. She still helps out.
Yeah.
And so we have a lot of people. If I ever need to, jump and go to the office on the weekend or late at night, we have people that can help us out. And then also, Selena's been with me throughout the entire ride, and so I've been lucky in that aspect where she's been very understanding. She understands. Like, I'm not just coming in and she knows nothing about the industry. She doesn't know how demanding it can be. She's known that the entire time. And so
she's lived it.
Yeah. And like I said, like, I get a phone call, I just tell her, like, hey, I have to take this, and she'll grab the kids and make sure they're not coming in the room while I'm on the phone, or if I have to do something. Like, she's a really good partner. So I think that's a big piece to it, is just having somebody that's very understanding, and then also just having, family and friends to help out.
Yeah.
Which has always been great. But I don't think my kids understand it yet. My son's always like, you're on the phone so much. And I'm like, I know, man, it's tough. And that kind of hits you sometimes when they tell you that. But
man, my kids, like, they joke with me. I pick them up from school, I'm on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm at the games. If I'm not coaching, I'm probably on the phone. They're like, Dad, you just always on the phone. I'm like, yeah, but that's how this world works. And
exactly.
you try to explain to them, like, all this is trying to, obviously do well, to do good for them. And sometimes they get it, sometimes they don't. But it's kind of what you got to do, right?
Yeah, it's tough. You want to, like, tell them, like, man, you're lucky. Like, I didn't have a lot of this growing up, and it's because we work. But I try to just phrase it to where I'm always just, he may not understand right now, especially my 6-year-old. He may not understand, but I'm always telling him, like, you got to work hard, son. You got to work hard. And everything you do, you got to work hard. You got to be ready.
Yeah. And I love your LinkedIn post. You send a lot of messages to your kids and your son on there.
Oh, yeah. I love my kids. It's like the greatest thing. But again, like, I know that I have to, whether they're noticing it or not in the moment, I know that they're going to see that if I'm working hard and I'm doing what I need to do. Yep. Hopefully that rubs off on them.
Yep. Well, they'll be check out this podcast at some point.
Definitely, man. I'm going to put it on the TV for them.
I tried to put my dad on there for my kids to watch it. They're like, I don't know, watch you and Poppy talk for an hour. Like, get out of there. But at some point, they'll appreciate it. All right, last question. I want to take you back to that moment when you were at that first inflection point with Prime, and you ultimately decided to sell the business. And I'm tying Last2First, and the personal side of it is, like, when you think back to 2012, 13, whatever that was, when you made the decision, what advice would you have given yourself prior to making the decision that you've learned today? And do you feel that was the best move for you?
That's tough. I try not to, like, which is another question. But I try not to think about, past decisions and maybe in a form of regret. I more think of what I could learn from it. And so I don't know if I would have done anything different. I mean, we didn't really get into it, but, me taking that Houston general manager position, like I thought I was going to do it for 2 years and just be out. I was like, yeah, I'll sign a 2-year contract and then I'm done. I stayed there for 8.5 years. I was able to learn final mile, which I never would have gotten into. I was able to learn home delivery, which we don't do now, but I can talk to it. I was able to learn warehousing. We do a lot of critical parts. We did a lot of storage. And so I was able to learn like the pick and pack, the sort and seg, like everything that I wouldn't have been able to learn and like put in my back pocket as just a small Houston business owner that focused on same day delivery. I was able to learn so much. And so I probably would go back and tell myself to do the same thing over again. And just like, maybe I just, prep myself and say like, hey, really take a bunch of notes and just really dive deep into it. But, it worked out for me on a personal level where I was just able to experience so much. And I was able to be around really good people. That's another big thing that people don't realize. Like, I had myself and I didn't know everything at the time. When I came over here, we went through a few different presidents, but each president I was able to gain a piece of knowledge. They were so knowledgeable. They're highly intelligent. Maybe they had different things that I never experienced before. And I was able to just, again, be a sponge and just learn from everybody that I got to interact with at that company. And so I don't take that for advantage. So it was fun. So I would just say do the same thing. Yeah.
I love it, man. Love it. Well, we're going to wrap up there because I think it's an excellent point. And I think for anyone that watched this podcast is watching it, they should understand like we're all a product of our experiences and the people that we connect with. And you've touched a lot on that in this podcast. It's been, it's been the glue for your career, for you being the glue for many organizations. And obviously the future is very bright for Final Mile and with people like you in it. I'm super excited for you and what's to come, man. So again, appreciate you inspiring me, following up on me, making sure that I did what I said I was going to do, because that's a big part of success in life. Like if you say something, do it. And so I appreciate you holding me accountable for that, and for being an inspiration to other people that me watching this to see how they can actually navigate their own journey and go from last to first. So, Mitch, appreciate you being on the podcast, man.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.